Let's go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Shalom Mulkey. I'm the President and Chief Operating Officer here at the Alliance. I am joined in the background by two of my colleagues, Caitlin Mello and Gina Davis. They're going to be in the background helping answer questions you may have in the Q&A or also in the chat. We'll also have time throughout this session to answer any questions you might have. Really excited to be launching this new initiative of the National Alliance on Homelessness, the Susan G. Baker and Elizabeth Boyle Innovation Fund, and really thrilled that there's so much interest in this new project of the Alliance. I'm going to go ahead and just start walking us through the project, but before we really get started, wanted to just set the tone for our conversation, just general statements for participation and any webinar, training, or conference that the Alliance does, is we really do work to ensure that diverse voices are included in our speakers, our attendees, and our guests, and all are welcome. We do have a zero tolerance policy for any form of discrimination or abusive behavior, and we're really committed to all of our events and our webinars and places are safe and respectful for all participants. So by participating, you acknowledge that any form of discrimination, violence, or abusive behavior may result in removal from the session, depending upon the situation. And if anybody has something specific, please reach out to one of the hosts. Again, we really strive to create a diverse, inclusive, accepting, and safe space for everyone. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to walk through these various items about the fund. We're going to talk a little bit about the history and the purpose, the eligibility and grant amount. We'll walk through the application process, talk about what commitments we're looking for from grantees, the commitments that the Alliance has to the grantees. We're going to highlight some really important dates coming up throughout the process. We'll talk a little bit about how the funds would get dispersed, the reporting requirements, and then also we'll throw up the contact and have some time for questions. So a little bit about the Susan G. Baker and Elizabeth Boyle Innovation Fund. Susan G. Baker and Elizabeth Boyle are two of our co-founders, and they were our longest serving board members. They retired about a year and a half ago from their service with the organization. And as a part of their going away, the board really asked them what it was that they felt would recognize their huge contribution, and that is where the birth of this fund came from. And so the board of directors of the National Alliance on Homelessness has seeded this fund with an amount of money in order to get us started, in order to launch this program. The purpose of it is really to provide grants to support individuals with past lived experience of homelessness as you pursue an innovative, professional, or creative endeavor. I'm going to walk through just some of the possible funding areas around professional and creative endeavors. This is not an exhaustive list. I want to make that really clear. So if you have something that fits in one of these buckets of professional or creative, but you don't see it here and we don't talk through it, please reach out to the email address that we are going to throw up on the screen, or attend one of the office hours that we have in the future so we can talk through what it is you may want to do. But some of the items that we wanted to highlight was around professional endeavors. You could use it to support training in pursuit of that professional endeavor. You could potentially use these funds as seed funding to start up a small business or some sort of innovative project. Some things around that might be like the development of a website or the creation of marketing materials, or maybe there's a certification you need to have in order to move forward, or you have some operating expenses that you want to put the funds for. Those would be completely acceptable uses of the funds. Now, let's say you already have something that's started and you want to expand it. What that would look like is possibly having some funds to hire staff, maybe investing in some technology or tools, or maybe there's a conference that you want to attend to have various networking opportunities to build more support for the project. Again, completely acceptable places for you to spend those funds. And then another one that we sort of thought about ahead of time was maybe you are doing some research and you need additional funds to support that work. So you need funds to help with data collection or travel expenses for field work, or maybe even costs associated with the publication of a research study. Again, these are just small examples of things that would fall under this bucket. If you have things that don't show up here, we really do encourage you to reach out to the email address so that we can talk about the specifics of your situation and talk through that. So those are some professional areas. Moving on to creative. Again, not exhaustive, but this is really supposed to support you as you pursue a creative endeavor. So maybe that's specialized training, maybe it's art supplies, maybe it's any technology you need in order to create your art, or any supplies you need to create your art. This all could be perhaps you're writing a book and you need support for writing and editing and publishing. This also could be used like for performances. So if you wanted to be doing an art exhibition or have a concert or have a place to showcase your work, this fund could support those efforts. I'm going to quickly just talk about who is eligible for these funds, and then we're going to pause and see if there are some questions we want to walk through. Again, people who are eligible for this fund have had experienced homelessness in the past. Your experience of homelessness should have occurred more than 1 year ago. Right now, current members of the Alliance's Community Strategic Team are not eligible for this. And again, you must be pursuing a professional or creative endeavor. I'm going to just pause real quick and check to see if we have some questions we should be throwing up. Okay. Oh, great question. A question about, are these grants designed for small nonprofits or individuals? These funds are really for individuals only, not for the organization. Now, if you've already started a nonprofit and you want to use those funds to help support that work, you can do that, but these grants are going to individuals. Another good one here, can we submit for more than one different project? We're asking people to just submit for one project. So please do some thinking around that. We will only be reviewing applications for one application per person. Let me see. And it's one award, one application. And
another question we have is, when does the application open up?
That's a great question. So the application is already posted online. I will be showing you the website where you can view that. So it is available already, and the due date for that application is actually December 30th. So we'll walk through a few more of those details as we get going. Gina or Caitlin, any others you think right now?
Yeah, the next one is, what's your definition of homelessness? I was never street homeless, but have been in PSH for a decade.
That absolutely fits. I believe if Gina or Caitlin, in our document, we actually had a definition, and they can put that in the chat for you, but that definitely qualifies. And if folks have other questions about this, please, if your questions don't get answered during this webinar, please reach out to us. Let's take like one or two more, and then I'm going to move on.
Those are all. Let me see what else we have here. Are these grants designed for small nonprofits, or can individuals who want to start a pilot project eligible to apply?
Yep. So if you want to be starting a project and you are an individual who are starting that project, you are eligible. If you have an existing nonprofit that is yours, that's the thing that you are involved in, and it's the thing that you started, the grant would still go to you as an individual, and you could use it to support that work. But again, these grants are going to individuals and not organizations.
And the last one for this segment, is there a minimum age for application?
Minimum age is 18 and up. So that's a great question.
All right, I'll toss it back to you, Shalom.
Great. Thanks so much, Gina. All right, so moving on. The grant amount, you can apply for a grant for up to $25,000, which must be spent within 2 years of receiving the funds. Please note that these funds may be considered taxable income depending upon the grantee's circumstance. And the Alliance is unable to provide tax advice around this. And so for those who do receive these funds, we would encourage people to consult their own tax advisor or someone in their community who can help them determine whether or not those funds are taxable. So let's get into the details. Let's talk about the application. The application website is endhomelessness.org innovation. What you can find there is the guidance we're going through today. You can find the application form. You can also find sample applications for both the professional and creative endeavor. There's a budget template available there for you that is referenced in the application. And there's also a sample recommendation letter for you to see. The process is for you to complete the grant application form in full and submit that application along with the supporting materials that we'll talk about in just a second to the provided email address. We will only be reviewing full applications. You can send multiple emails to make sure that we get everything, but incomplete applications as of the deadline will automatically be disqualified. One thing to note is if you are selected as a final candidate, there will be a virtual presentation and interview with the selection committee. And there is a week already set aside for that we will look at when we get to the timeline. So what's in the application? The application is on that website as a PDF document. Please note you can download that PDF and either fill it out, or you can just take the questions that are in that PDF and put them in a Word document and submit it that way. You don't have to use that actual PDF document, but we do ask that you answer all of the questions in full as they are listed in the application. The core components of the application are having a project title, providing a brief bio and background information on yourself, provide a project description, talk to us, tell us a little bit about how the project will contribute to your professional or creative goals. Please list the amount you're requesting and a description of how you plan to use the grant. We are also asking for a timeline for your project and also a sustainability for your project. So how is this project going to go on beyond this initial funding? And do you have funding already in place for parts of the project? We're also asking you for an itemized budget breakdown. And as I mentioned, there's a budget template that is available to you. Once again, you don't have to use that template if you have something else you want to use, but that is there for you. The supporting materials that I referenced earlier, the ones that we're asking you to send is a resume and also 2 recommendations. Again, we have a sample recommendation on the website so you can see what we're looking for. We're looking for recommendations from people who can really speak to the work in the project that you are submitting the application for. You may also submit 2 additional materials in support of your application. Those could be links to a portfolio that you already have. It could be attachments of the attachments of work associated with the project that you've already completed. Those aren't required, but you are eligible, or you can submit those. The selection process is one in which we will conduct a formal review using a cross-functional team of Alliance staff members, members of our community strategic team, and board members. In addition to ensuring that your application is complete and all your required attachments are there, the team will assign numeric scores for each of the project descriptions and narratives that will help guide the final selection of the final candidates. Excuse me. Again, incomplete applications will not be considered. I'm actually going to pause there so I can take a drink and just see, Gina, do you want to throw me a few questions?
Sure. Do the creative professional endeavors need to relate directly to homelessness, or can the focus of the project be outside of the topic of homelessness?
It can be outside of the topic of homelessness.
Okay, and then we have another one. What if the person's homelessness was decades ago and not well documented?
That's fine. That's okay. We are just asking that your experience of homelessness is should have occurred at least more than 1 year ago.
And we are getting a lot of folks who are asking about education, going to school, universities.
Yeah, this fund is not a scholarship fund for universities. We are really focusing this on more general professional endeavors or creative endeavors. Again, the funds can be used for training, but it's not for going to school towards a degree.
Will this grant cause an income conflict with my Section 8 voucher?
So that is something that we can't advise you on. You're going to have to find someone in your community who can help determine that. Again, the grant could be considered taxable income depending upon your individual circumstance. So we're not, I actually am not sure what the answer is for that for you in particular.
And
Okay.
then the last one that's a little bit difficult to answer, there's several variations of this. Can we do a collective? Can a husband and a wife fill out different applications? How many applications can we fill out?
So we're asking people to fill out one application, and the grant is for one person or for one individual. So I would say if you're husband and wife, I wouldn't put it all on one application. I mean, you are two individuals, so you can submit two. But again, we'll be we're looking to fund an individual with each grant.
All right, that's what we have for now until the next go round.
Okay, great. All right. All right, let me just talk to you a little bit about what the selection criteria, what the scored criteria will be. We will be really looking at the clarity and feasibility of the project, the impact that project has on your professional or creative goals. We'll really also be looking at the budget and the justification, and does the budget make sense in alignment with the project objectives? And we're looking for, a strong demonstrated commitment to the pursuit of the project. I think that really will come in like how your recommendations talk about you and that work. The other piece that, as I highlighted earlier, we'll be looking for projects that really have a demonstrated plan for sustainability beyond just the funding that comes through this grant. So these are the commitments we're looking for from grantees if they do get these funds. One, we are asking that the grantee attends one of the Alliance's conferences over the 2-year period of the grant. That will be at the Alliance's expense and is not considered part of the grant fund. That's in addition. We ask that the grantees be prepared to engage with the Alliance staff to provide interim updates on a prearranged schedule. We also are asking grantees to be ready to submit the reports required electronically as scheduled, and then also that grantees consent to the Alliance to publicize the grant or award. Oops, went too far. Now, the Alliance's commitment to you, the grantee, is, as I mentioned, we will be providing complimentary conference registration to one Alliance conference that will include transportation, hotel, and again, the scholarship to the conference is in addition to the grant award. We commit to providing a very clear timeline and templates for the reporting and work with you on those deadlines. We are also committing to promote your work when relevant and with your authorization across social media, newsletters, or events to raise awareness and support your project and raise the visibility. So let me just walk through some of the important dates that are on hand. We are doing the informational webinar right now. We have 2 office hours set aside between now and the date the applications are due. One is in November and one is in December. Those will be office hours in which Alliance staff are available and people can drop in and ask questions that you may have as you've gotten started writing your application. The big deadline to be focused on is applications are due via email on December 30th. Again, we will be cutting those off at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. Anything that's submitted after that, we will not be able to review. As I mentioned, a part of the selection process is final candidates will be asked to participate in a virtual presentation and interview with the selection committee. The week that those are scheduled for is in January, and then January 21st to the 29th. And then we will be notifying applicants of their award or decline status by January 31st. The rest of the dates that follow are really once you have received those funds, the reporting dates, and also dates for some of our conferences. Once a grantee is awarded the grant, the funds will be dispersed in 2 installments. The first 75% of those funds will be dispersed 2 to 4 weeks after the Alliance receives the signed grant agreement. The remaining 25% will be dispersed after the completion of the first interim project update. Reporting. You'll be required to participate in 2 brief project update calls, and then you will also be required to submit a brief written report upon completion. So let's open it up for more questions. Any questions about the application or the application process?
Caitlin, do you have any? I'm going through most of these are the same.
Folks were wondering if they can submit more materials such as 3 or 4 letters of recommendation, or other things outside of what the application asks for.
That's a great question. So we really ask that you hold to what the application asks for. So please just submit 2 letters of recommendation and 2 additional supporting materials if that is what you elect to submit.
Okay, here's one. What if you are trying to start a nonprofit for lived experience, but you sign a co-CEO model? Can each of us apply for the grant to support the work?
Again, the grant will go to you as an individual, and how you use those funds will be up to you for that project. I would say you both could submit, but there's not a guarantee that you both would receive it. Because again, it would go to the individual.
I have another question here asking if an individual has applied for the scholarship for an Alliance conference, including this February, are they still eligible to apply for this grant?
Ooh, that's a great question. Absolutely. The only people who are not eligible to apply that have previous or have a current relationship with the Alliance is the Alliance's community strategic team.
I have an. Oh, go ahead, Gina.
Okay. Will the application be able to be saved and resumed at later times so you can come back and make a copy once the application is complete?
Great. So it is a fillable PDF for you to download. So if you are downloading it and saving it on your own computer, you can do that. Again, it's not actually an online form. For that express purpose, we didn't want you to be filling something out and have to come back later. So it is a PDF for you to download. Once again, if you're having problems with the PDF and writing on the PDF, you can just take the questions in that PDF and put them in a Word document and answer them in a Word document.
I have another question here. If individuals have already started a nonprofit and have paid for items, could this money be used for reimbursement for those items or used to cover a following year?
They could be used to cover a future year. This isn't to pay for expenses already incurred. These funds are really to pay for future expenses. These are great questions. Keep them coming.
Could the funds be used to become a tax advisor?
I mean, if that is the professional endeavor that you are aiming towards, yes.
Okay.
How could COCs get involved to encourage folks with lived experience in their communities to apply for this grant?
I would say that's a great question. You know, again, all of the information will be on our website. We will be sending out this PowerPoint presentation to everyone who attend. Please feel free to share this PowerPoint with people in your community. We have no problem if you want to publicize this grant in your communications with people. And if you need additional help, please reach out via the email address that I'm going to put up, and maybe we can think of some other ways.
I have another question. What is the privacy protection on things that are submitted to the Alliance team? For example, if it's a project that needs to be copyrighted, should we be copywriting before submitting to the Alliance?
That is a good question. We are going to protect your intellectual property in any way, shape, or form. If you have a specific question about it, reach out to the email address, and I will be happy to hop on a phone and talk through the specifics of what we do internally and what we can do for you.
Most of these are repeats.
Okay.
Can you go over the requirements a little bit slower again? The sound was fading in and out.
Sure. So the requirements for the application, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. Let me go back and show you those. So again, for the application, we will be asking for you to have name the title of the project that you're submitting for. We are asking for a very brief bio and just background information from you. We're looking for a project description, so please describe what the work is, or the creative endeavor you are trying to pursue with these funds will be. A key part for us is how this effort is really connecting to your larger professional or creative goals. And then we're going to want the details of the request, the amount you're requesting, how you would use those funds, the timeline for the project that you're submitting under, and then again, a plan for how this will last beyond just the funds provided by the Alliance for the project. We'll also be looking for a more itemized budget breakdown, and then those supporting materials. Everything we've gone over in this presentation is on the funds application website page on our website. I will provide you the link so that you can go there. It's actually that endhomelessness.org/innovation. Again, also at that site, you will find a sample application for both the professional and creative endeavor. So we filled out the applications just sort of as a Jane Doe or a John Doe pursuing a project in those areas in order to, so you can kind of see what we're looking for in the responses to those questions. Let's see, others. Any other key questions folks are seeing? Gina, Caitlin?
There's a lot of them here, but most of them have already been answered. We will again, as Shalom mentioned, send out, excuse me, both the PowerPoint and the recording after to all that registered for this webinar. 2 people cannot apply together. This is meant for an individual grant. For the bio, what kind of information are you looking for, Shalom?
That is great. Let me actually pull up and read the exact question so that you know what exactly we are looking for. Give me 1 minute. Too many screens open. Okay, so for the bio question, we are specifically asking you to provide any background information that you think is important for us to consider when we are reviewing your application. We are inviting you to share any part of your lived experience of homelessness that you feel comfortable discussing. We are very clear that this is your story to tell, and anything that you share will be kept private and only be used to provide context for your application. There are word limits associated with all of the questions in the application, and we do ask that you try to that you abide by those. And so that question in particular is a max of 250 words. So not overly long, just enough to help us know a little bit more about you and why you are interested in pursuing this work. Great question.
Okay. Can a project be sponsored by a lived expertise council and not a single individual?
No, this really is for individuals, not for a council.
Can this funding be used for persons with lived expertise going to other conferences and seminars than yours?
If those conferences are connected to a larger professional or creative endeavor, you can definitely use those funds for conferences. You don't need to use them to come to ours. But again, going to those conferences should be interwoven into the application, and those conferences should be in support of the larger endeavor. So asking for funding just for a conference without it connected to a professional or creative, a larger professional or creative project would not be eligible. But if it's part of a complement to the larger proposed work, it definitely would qualify.
This may be a silly question. Is there a background check? If so, what would be disqualifying? I didn't see any information about that on the website.
There's no background check for these funds.
And to answer this one again, because it keeps coming up, can funding be used to support entry into housing, to pay my rent, or to assist me to get out of homelessness? That is not what these grants are meant for.
Correct. These grants are meant for, again, pursuing something outside of housing and for your professional, like project that you were pursuing or a creative project that you were pursuing.
Can the attachments in the portfolio provide or include audio and video links?
Yes, you can do that.
We have a
we-
20.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry, Caitlin. I'll do this last one, then I'll turn it over to you. We have a 23-unit house. We are nonprofit. Could we use it as rent fund?
no, again, this is to go to a very specific individual. It is not to create a fund for individuals outside of that.
Over to you,
Uh,
Caitlin.
Yep, we have a question on how will the funds be dispersed? Do awardees need to have a bank account?
Yes, so for the disbursement of these funds, they will be done via either direct deposit into an account or by check. So you will need a place for either to deposit a check or for us to deposit them into.
And then another question, what if my resume has major gaps in it?
That is not a problem. Please don't worry about that. We understand. Right. Okay, I'm trying to scan here too.
If we're hoping to use the funds to attend a conference, but there are several of us, do we all need to fill out the application individually or ask for one amount together?
So again, this fund, to me, that doesn't quite sound like the intended use of the fund. These funds are for one individual to pursue a larger project. If this was every single person had they could apply to go to a conference, but that is not how do I say, like, again, applying for funds for just one conference is not quite the larger professional or creative endeavor that we are looking to support with the funds. If that conference is a complement to the larger project, absolutely. But again, the funding is just for one person or one individual. Each grant is for just one individual.
Another question, if we're requesting funds to help with a creative endeavor, do all of the funds need to go directly to the project, or can it help cover housing expenses while I focus on the project? Other living expenses?
So the funds need to go towards the project specifically, and not cover the living expenses while doing the work.
Will this grant be a competitive grant?
These will be competitive. Again, this is an open application and they will be scored on the criteria that we walked through with the committee, and narrowing down that pool to some final candidates who will do virtual presentations and participate in an interview. So it is a competitive process.
A lot of times when a person receives funding, they're restricted by several requirements for a grant. Is this one a restrictive or just healthily monitored source of funding?
So we do have reporting mechanisms where you will be reporting back how you use the grant. So these grants are for, will be, I guess, in that sense, restricted for the purpose that you have applied for. The budget that you submit is something that we will work with you on. We won't hold you tightly to that budget, because we also understand that, you know, circumstances can change, but that's going to be something we're going to want to have communication with you about. I think I saw something in here, a question about whether or not a recommendation could come from an organization or council rather than an individual. Yes, that's fine too. Like, The recommendation, that's a great question. The recommendation could come from an organization that you work with, or a council, or also individuals.
Shalom, I know we can't use this for our own education. If we found a university with staff willing to partner with us on a research endeavor, would that be something that would qualify?
Yes, that would qualify.
A lot of people are asking about the letters of recommendation. Shalom, if you have any details that you can share about who that should look like and where it should come from.
Again, those can come from individuals or organizations that have worked with you and can really speak to not just you, but the work that you're proposing that we fund. There is a sample recommendation letter written on the website as part of on the fund's website as sort of a template you can use to see exactly what we're looking for in terms of those recommendation letters.
Will the expectation of future donations or grants be considered as one of the sustainability measures?
Yeah, that will be a sustainability measure. I see one here about character limits. There are not character limits, but there are word limits for each question. So please look at the application and abide by those that are listed. Looking through other pieces. Okay, this is a great list of questions. I think we can take questions for just a few more minutes. Again, this recording, we will be sending this recording out to everyone who registered for the webinar. Please feel free to share it with folks who were not registered if they're in your community and you feel like this is a project that they might be interested in. Gina, Caitlin, do you have just a couple more?
I have one. Can you talk more about the grantee and the NAEH conference? Are they expecting to be a presenter? What's the purpose?
That's a great question. So we would love for the person to present if they feel like they are able to and want to. It is not a requirement that they present. We wanted to, however, we did want to or ask people to attend at least one conference so that we internally also have a chance to just get to meet you and highlight your work in whatever way we can. We are not, again, over the course of 2 years, there will be 4 conferences. So although on the timeline we have this date of the next conference, that's just because that's the most upcoming conference. If there is a desire and willingness to present, we would love to highlight you during the conferences, but that's not going to be a requirement.
To your point, Shalom, another person asked about the publicity. What pictures publicizing the story? Is it our story, your story?
It would be the story of the project and the fund and what it's accomplishing. Nothing we ever publish or produce would be done without, it will be done in coordination and consultation with grantees, and grantees will always have a final say on whatever we put out.
Okay. We have questions about the office hours. So we have 2 office hours set up, and those hours are between 3 and 4 p.m. And once you get and receive the PowerPoint, you'll also see the dates in there. They are, help me out, Shalom, November 7th and December 18th.
Yep.
18th, from 3 to 4 p.m. All right.
Okay.
The
Well,
rest
again, Oh, is that,
That seem to be
Okay.
duplicates. Caitlin?
I think that seems to be what I'm seeing.
okay, great. Well, I've had this slide up for a while. Again, the contact information, the place to send emails with any questions, and then also to submit that application is bbfund@naeh.org. All of the application materials can be found at inhomelessness.org/innovation. As you have questions, please feel free, please do, submit emails to that email address. We will be trying to answer those at least on a weekly basis. So if you don't get a response immediately, please assume you're going to get a response within a week on that. And again, as you start reading these materials, and if you feel like you want to have be able to have more of a one-on-one conversation with someone, please put on your calendar attending those office hours. Again, we're really excited about this project and that there's so much enthusiasm and great work being done that we may have a potential to help bring to fruition in whatever way possible. And again, we will send this recording out probably tomorrow to everybody who was registered for this webinar. Have a great afternoon. And again, send us those emails. Thanks so much.